Welcome, everybody, to All Even Live exclusive. I am Barry Grant Jr., host of the All Even podcast. To my left is Matt Cataruzolo, the great Matt Cataruzolo. Bottom left, we have Mike Guido, host of the Guido Gridiron Blitz. And today we have a special guest. We have two-time Emmy winner, author, motivational speaker, formerly of ESPN, Mark Kelly.
How you doing, guys? Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's an honor today, sir. Honor to have you on the show. You have such a great story, and we just want to know, like, how are you? How is your family doing in this weird upside down time that we're living in?
Well, my family, they're up on Long Island. I haven't really talked to them much. I keep in touch with my mom. And down here in Alabama, I moved down here in September because it's kind of crazy up there in New York. It's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to live as a single guy on Long Island. So it's a lot cheaper, a lot easier down here. And my girlfriend's down here too, so it works out well. And I like it down here. Now I'm a New Yorker and I'm a Long Island boy at heart, and I always will be. And that you never can take that from me. But New York isn't what it used to be, and it's
no,
and it's breaking my heart.
Yeah, I hear you.
Certainly is not. Well, listen, I just want to piggyback off of what Barry said. Like you said, it was a great honor. It's not that much of an honor.
Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is, man.
Where's your pride?
Guido knows me, I guess.
Oh my God, I'm joshing around with him. But Mark, one of the reasons that I was dying to get you on this show was because you have such an incredible and inspirational life story. So you had, your journey really began while you were young. When you got diagnosed with cancer early on in your life. I mean, and you've told me this story before, but our listeners and obviously my co-hosts haven't heard it also. Just if you could take us through the process of what your childhood was like and, finding out that news and how exactly that changed your life at that point in time.
Yeah, well, I was a two-sport athlete at Smithtown Christian in Smithtown, New York, and recruited to play college in baseball and basketball. And my junior year, 2 games into the season, I started noticing I was getting really, really tired. A little different than, because I have asthma. It was a little different than that, and I was developing what I thought was a hemorrhoid, and I couldn't sit down. I was like, if you remember Larry Bird in the late 80s, 90s, when he had his back problems, he would lay on the floor in front of the bench. That's what I would have to do.
Wow.
Because I couldn't sit down. And so it really got to the point where I couldn't even go to the bathroom without being in severe pain. And I thought it was just going to go away. When going to the doctor, they said it was an abscess. And they were just going to remove it. And they said, no big deal. You'd be in and out. And then they took me into the surgery. And then when I woke up, nothing was the same after that. They had discovered that they cut into a tumor. And when they cut into it, it was like all blood. And they almost killed me right there on the operating table because it lanced a massive tumor. And so they stuck me with toilet paper and everything just to stop the bleeding. And they had to figure out what it was because they had no idea. And when they came back, I remember when the doctor came in to tell me, he didn't tell me. He asked to speak to my dad, and then they went down for out of the room for a little while. And I thought they were coming back in. And nobody came back in. About an hour later, I got out of my bed. I walked down the hall, and I saw them in a room. It was my mom, my sister, and my doctor, and my dad. And they said, and they were all crying. And I said, obviously there's something wrong. Is it, what's going on? They said, well, you have cancer. We're gonna have to send you to a place in the city called Sloan Kettering, and they'll be able to help you. And at that time, I didn't know. They told my parents, your son only has 6 months to live. That was, but what happened was when we got to Sloan, they discovered it was a very rare cancer called rhabdomyosarcoma. It's a skeletal muscle cancer, only 66 cases a year. Most of them are between the ages 2 and 6. So I was 16, Obviously they hadn't seen that before. And then, look, I didn't know what to expect at all. If I had known, I probably wouldn't have gone through with it. Because the next year of my life was, the only thing I can compare to it is this last year, because this last year has been different circumstances. When emotional and physical problems, they can have the same amount of wear on your body and on your mind. But when you don't have a choice, I didn't have a choice then. It's like either I fought for my life or I died. So it's an easy choice to make. And at 16, I still wanted to live my life. I wanted, to be a parent. I wanted to play sports again. It's what I waited my whole life to get to that point. I was getting to the point where I could dunk, and I was throwing the hardest I had thrown, and it was just coming into the athlete I was. So all of that, changed very drastically. And I no longer, when I had gotten better, which the treatment almost killed me. And through bone marrow transplant, I had a collapsed lung. I had massive bleeding in my bladder. I had about 11 bladder surgeries in 3 weeks to stop the massive hemorrhaging. And this is all when I had no blood counts. So it was a miracle I lived. I was always a person of faith, but that really strengthened the faith that I had.
Absolutely.
If I didn't have that, there's no way. Still, in my life now, you can't take Jesus from me. If you did, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. And that's kind of sustained me through even the last year, which has been difficult as well. And it's kind of my way I try to do. I'm by no means perfect, and I make many mistakes as anybody else, but that does give me a direction. It gives me a purpose. It lets me know that I was created for a purpose, and and I just try to fulfill that with my life and how I live now.
Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Mark, how's it going, man? I don't know if you really remember me. I was Guido's co-host back at Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We would run into each other a couple times when you and Hickey were finishing up, and it was always an interesting conversation, man. So it's good to see that you're doing good again. I watched your interview with Lisa Harris yesterday just to kind of prepare and get a little more boned up on the information of just, how incredible your life story has been. And you mentioned that when you were in high school playing 2 sports, being only 16, you mentioned that you maintained a very healthy lifestyle. You ate clean.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your mother was a very big part of that, no sugary foods or anything like that. So, I mean, just how random this was makes the story and the comeback more incredible. I'm really curious to know that besides all the obvious physical effects of this diagnosis, what does that do? A diagnosis like that, something rare, something you said 66 cases a year of this rare type of cancer. What does that do or weigh on the psyche of a teenager, a kid, really? So how did you really handle that when you first heard the news?
That's a good question. I think when you're that age, you don't really know much about life. You only understand what a teenager knows. So I think if I would have known what the next year was going to be like, I would have had a different attitude. But because I didn't know, and I wanted to make it through. I mean, I was only 16. I didn't want to die, and I had plans, I had goals, I had things I wanted to accomplish, and no matter what it took, I was going to do what I had to do. It was, it just about everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So there were a lot of things that they told me, well, it might not be this way or that, and it always was the worst. So, and you can't prepare for that. You don't know what it's like until you're experiencing it. And then when you're experiencing it, you're just trying to get through it. And you're always looking toward the end, the light at the end of the tunnel. And, that's kind of what motivated me. And, also, when you feel like when you're created, by your creator, you have a purpose, and there was a purpose for my life, and there still is. And as much as I've screwed up, and as much as I've probably ruined a lot of the plans that I could have had, it's still there. And even through what the country's going through, and individual people, what they're going through, you never know the impact you can have on somebody else, because they watch you, and you can, whatever you're going through, you can be motivating to somebody else, because they see your circumstances, and they're always everything's always relative. So it helps when you can. I know there are people in my life who I've looked at, and I said, "Geez, how do they deal with what's going on, and how do they keep going on?" And there's always somebody like that you can do that to, and whether it's talking to high school kids or whether it's talking to people at my church, whether it's just talking to friends or anybody, and it comes up, there's a perspective you have when you go through that you can only get through that, and no one can really understand except when you almost have your life taken from you. It's an experience that you can't put anything, you can't explain it any other way. It's just the way it's just the only thing you can do is take the lessons you learned and use it to help as much as you can when somebody else is going through something, and you're able to bring them back to some sort of a basis where they can compare things and then realize, okay, you know what, this isn't that bad. There's a way out of this. There's a way I can come back. You just have to work hard at it. I mean, that's one thing I definitely discovered is if you don't have a work ethic, if you don't work hard, if you don't have goals, and if you don't have ambitions, and if you don't do the right thing, I mean, you have to be a good person. You have to treat people the right way. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of things that even if you achieve, it's not going to be worth much.
Yeah, that's that story is just it's very personal to me as well too, Mark, because I didn't have cancer myself, but my mom has dealt with cancer since I was about 20 years old, still ongoing to this day. We fight every day, and it made me grow up very, very fast. As a 20-year-old, it made me put things in perspective that I never thought that I would do at that age. And, it kind of prepared me for my life now. I'm 35, and there's not a lot that I feel I haven't seen because I've experienced so much. I'm sure, you can be able to attest to that as well. Kind of explain that a little bit. I know Matt kind of, said it a little bit, but, did it make you kind of have to grow up a little faster? Going through this process? Because like I said, I understand it, but just not from that particular standpoint.
Yeah, here's the thing that it definitely did. Before I got sick, I didn't understand people who couldn't play sports. I didn't understand people to me, not that I thought there any less of them, or it just didn't make sense to me. How can you not catch up?
Right.
How can you not do it? But it opened me up to a whole new avenue of people and a whole more diverse interest. I'm a lot more diverse now than I was when I was younger. When I was younger, the way my mom would punish me is she would make me watch The Sound of Music or something like that. It was just torture for me. Absolutely. All I wanted to do was watch sports, play sports. That's all I wanted to do. Now, I mean, I'm an avid historian. I have so many, I love to read. I love to learn. I have such an obsession for learning. Anything I can learn, it benefits me so much, and I have a real thirst for it. So whether it's, and I'm not that, I don't really play the political game, but I know how it works.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in history, very interested in people, very interested in how your mind works and how you process thought, and how you're able to understand the things that are happening to you and your body, but also how you relate to people. And that it definitely taught me how to relate to other people who I didn't see. It's not like I thought down or thought little of them, but when you have to relate to people on different levels, and then when you are the one now who can't play sports.
Right.
And I watch guys, I mean, I still played in college, but I watched guys who I was much better than play over me because I just didn't have the athletic ability anymore.
Yeah.
That was really hard to take. Even now when I play, I'm 47, I'll be 47 on Monday, and I still have the mentality of that 16-year-old.
Right.
That I can go out and play and no way I do that. I mean, I can do, I could always shoot, and I'm so, somewhat athletic, but it's, that was very humbling.
Yeah.
Because things that came very easy to me no longer did.
Right.
And that forced me to have to relate to people in a different way. But it showed me a side of humanity that I didn't understand before.
Right.
That, that there are I appreciated the people who were the nerds, who got shunned, who people wouldn't talk to. Those are always people I had a heart for. God always gave me a heart for those people. The rejects, the people that wouldn't go over and sit at lunch. Those are always the people I wanted to be around, because there's so many wonderful people that I've met that I wouldn't have been friends with if this didn't happen.
Yeah. Mark, you've told me once before, and it's not like you've ever hid this or anything like that. You've made it pretty public. You were a Make-A-Wish kid.
Yeah.
Right? And I always was curious about the how Make-A-Wish kids feel being a Make-A-Wish kid, right? Because of course you're given this really, cool and fun and exciting opportunity to, maybe achieve a certain dream that you'd never thought that you could have by, meeting a person or playing catch with somebody or something like that. And that's a really cool experience. But at the same time, there's also that negative connotation. Does that run through your mind, or is that not really what you're focused on at the time when you're going through that experience?
I think you have to understand the types that you're dealing with. If you're dealing with the terminal illness, then that's something that's real special. And whoever gets rewarded with that, believe me, it's a reward to be able to give a dying child that wish. If it's you, it's an honor you could never put a value on. My first wish was to meet Magic Johnson, but he had just got diagnosed with HIV, so I couldn't do that. Right. But Dick was always a guy. Dick Vitale was always a guy who I enjoyed listening to, and through that I also got to meet Jimmy V. Right, like he hadn't even been diagnosed yet. He was complaining of back pain when I met her in April of '92, and then he was dead by I know he had diagnosed and he gave that speech in March of '93. So. I got to meet him. I got to meet Robert Roberts, who wound up having, her battle with cancer later. And that kind of introduced me to the people I wound up working with years later. I didn't know that at the time, obviously. But when those kids, I still remember when I first got to Sloan Kettering and I walked out of the elevator and into my room, and now I'm one of these kids, and you see them with bald heads, and you see them pushing IV poles with just about every thing you could imagine hooked up to their, either it's a Broviac or a port that they have in their body, and it'll break your heart. It'll absolutely break your heart. And I remember just sitting there and crying for these kids, because they don't know what life is. That's all they know. Some of these kids are sick from birth, and all they know are doctor appointments, chemotherapy. That's all they know. And they don't know what it's like to go out and sit and play outside, or to play sports, or just to enjoy school, or even something like that. So that side of it, when you're dealing with that a terminal illness and you're a Make-A-Wish kid, that's something a little bit different to me. I had it better. They also reward kids who go through chemo and are going to make it too. So it's not just a death wish thing. Okay. So that was my side of it. Okay. It was a little bit different. And so people on that side, it's more of an enjoyment thing, because you really get to get into it. Where the other side, there's always the fact that this could be the last thing that the child is doing, which makes it very special for the parents, the child, and the person who is the gift giver.
Right.
Yeah, Mark, I always imagine, like, when tragic news can happen to somebody so young, it's super important to have a very strong support system around them, whether it is friends or family, or you said even as an athlete. I was wondering if you could even be teammates. So how could you attest to the fact that having a strong support system is crucial to even keeping a positive mindset throughout a time like that?
Yeah, I know for me, my mom was very crucial to me. My sisters, my brother, my immediate family, they were very crucial to getting me to the hospital. My dad too. My dad passed away a while ago, but he was there as well. So there were a lot of things. My Uncle John came out from Arizona, and he stayed with me for a couple of days when my mom just needed a break, because my mom was there every day. And in the book I wrote, she wrote a chapter on what it's like for a parent to experience that when you watch your child dying or very sick. I can't imagine what that would be like. So it's for a parent, and then you're also seeing the other kids that are dying and the other mothers and the other family, and you're trying to, you're thinking in your head, when is my child's time going to come? So those are hard things to do. So the parents need a support system. My mom needed a support system. My family needed a support system. We kind of all support each other. But that was, I think, a special time because I grew closer to so many people. But again, it's just temporary because like you go back to life, and then when you have real issues, not that that's any a vacation, but you kind of forget about the daily grind. The paying bills, paying rent, all the things that you have to do to survive.
Right.
When you're fighting for your life, all those things don't really seem to matter as much. And that's a mindset that probably would do when you talk about survivor's guilt, I feel that sometimes, because sometimes I feel like I should know better, because I get caught up in, like in the last year, I've been caught up in, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And it really drags me down. And it really, things that I should know better. That I've really taken hard, because I don't like to, I have a very high expectations of what I do. And I want to be able to help other people. I want to be able to give back. And when I can't, I don't do well with that, because then that takes away something I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's I am just like, floored by the story. How did you, after your cancer went into remission, obviously, you had how did you end up at ESPN as a researcher?
How did I wind up at ESPN? Well, I wasn't the greatest student. It's not like that I wasn't smart, but I didn't care. I didn't try. I got, B's and C's, and that was fine for me,
That's me too. I think that's everybody. Yeah. Other than Matt. Yeah.
So when I went to college, I went to be a psych major, and because I love how the mind, processes thought, and I love being able to understand that about myself and be able to understand it about other people, and that's kind of how you relate to other people. I wasn't. College ain't for everybody, and it wasn't for me. And I left after about 2.5 years. I got enough for an associate's degree. But then my mom also wound up getting an non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I came back to kind of be around her. I mean, she got better and everything. So, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do with my life? And I wanted to coach basketball. It's really what I wanted to do. And I would spend my summers going around to the camps. I worked for Bobby Kremitz. I worked for Eddie Fogler. I worked for John Kress at College of Charleston. I worked for did the Knicks camps, the ABCD camp. I did the camp for 5-star. I met Coach Pitino. I met Hubie Brown. I met all those kids. It was a great experience, but in the end, the AAU was taking over. And in order to be a college basketball coach, you really had to go in and recruit, and you had to sell kids on things, and you had to play the game. Right. Yeah, I didn't realize at that time that college athletes got paid. Mm-hmm. Okay, you could be around, but they do. And I had guys that were being negotiating with the colleges that they were trying to go to. There's always a way to do it. I really didn't think that went on. And I remember this guy, Tyquan Harris, he played for one of the schools in the, I think, Belmont University. And I was with Adam at Clemson University. We were doing a camp together. And I remember asking him, you mean these kids really do get paid? And he looks at me, he goes, where the hell have you been? And it was an awakening. And I just couldn't I wasn't cut out for that. Just like I'm not a salesman.
Yeah.
So I can't sell. I suck at it. And it's probably one of my biggest faults. I wish I could. But I have a hard time going in and trying to sell something I don't really believe in. And it would be hard for me to do that with a child or a parent or anybody else like that. So, and that was a big part of being a coach. I enjoyed the teaching. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed, the feeling you get when you're preparing for a game and when you're coaching your kids. That's what I really enjoyed. And then when I decided not to do that, then I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I want to do sports. This is what I want to do. You can't go to college for that. There's no degree you could get for that. I made some inquiries. I had a guy that worked at the AP that I was friends with. Dick helped me out too. He made a phone call to one of the guys there. And then they gave me an interview, and then they didn't hire me. They hired somebody else. Okay. And I was like brokenhearted. Like, what am I going to do now? And so it turns out that the guy that they hired ahead of me worked the morning shift. He left at lunch and never came back. And so then they called me the next day and said, Mark, things have changed. Why don't you come work? I started doing college basketball first. October 25th, 1999 was my first day there. And it was like I died and gone to heaven. It really was. I mean, I remember like I was working with the guys, guys I spent up watching, Rich Eisen, Trey Wingo, Stuart Scott, all these guys that I watched every day, and now I was giving them information.
Right.
So it was an honor to be there at first, but then it's like everything else. It's a job.
Right.
And you work weekends, you work holidays, you get, all those things, you got to pay your dues. So, it was a little bit of an eye-opening experience. But I loved it. I really did. I really did love it. But you see what's happening now. I mean, a lot of all the guys that were my bosses are gone. They were fired about 5 years ago when they had their first bloodletting. Just recently, a guy that is one of the best researchers I ever worked with, one of the best. He was a producer for Dan Patrick's Sports Center when he worked there, and he got let go too. So it's all because they're paying this egregious money to these professional sports for the right to air these games, and it's so stupid. So many people that they were good people that loved working there, they let go. And the stuff they do now, I mean, Kellerman, I knew Kellerman. Kellerman's like been through a lot. His brother died, and I respect that about him. But I think I don't like him very much. I really don't. And I could blow him out of the water in any debate. So I don't like how they do that, and I don't like the insults back and forth. Because some of the things they say are just for show.
Yeah, we're gonna test that knowledge a little bit later. I hope
okay.
We're gonna throw some trivia at you. We're gonna debate you. We're just gonna make your life a living hell.
Watch me fall right on my face. Yeah, keep my words. All right. You got something back up now. All right.
So, you told me a story once about how you had an experience at ESPN where, and I was going through that thing at Worldwide Sports, and you were really helpful, kind of talking myself and my old partner, Evan Mazza, through it, just saying like, listen, I don't want you to think that this is all your fault. And it really helped, that I really appreciated that. But part of what you did there was you told me a story about how your life got absolutely crapped on at ESPN. You had somebody yelling in your face. Could you tell, I forget exactly who it was. I don't know why it escapes me. But who you were working for, what was the experience at ESPN that led to you winning your first Emmy?
Yeah, I almost single-handedly brought down the entire network that day. So I was doing college basketball, and Saturday is obviously the biggest day in college basketball. You got a million games.
Yeah.
And so I was I normally wouldn't have to do ABC Saturday. That would go to the senior researcher. This guy, Chris Felica. If you watch Game Day, College Game Day, he's the guy called the Bear. Okay.
Yeah.
And so he was supposed to do that. Chris is brilliant, far more brilliant than me. And Chris knew the guys that he's working with, Digger Phelps and John Saunders. Those are the two guys he worked with on ABC Saturday. So I just get Rob Lemley, who's the producer, comes to me like the day before. He's like, "Oh, Mark, Chris has got a wedding tomorrow. We're gonna need you to do this." I'm like, "What? And I'm gonna have help, right?" And they're like, "No, it's just you." And meanwhile, I'm like, I didn't sleep that night. Because when you're dealing with Digger Phelps, now Digger at the time, Digger needed to know his information. So anytime Digger would just shoot out, "Hey, what's this guy doing? What's that guy doing?" And you got to answer him. You can't. It doesn't matter if you got like a million other things going on. You got to answer them. So before the game, just to give you an idea of what you have responsible for, before the game, you got to call all the press row numbers, and you got to get the halftime box score. At that time, remember, it's still the dark ages. You needed to get the halftime box, the final box. You had to get it faxed to you because Digger needed his halftime box score and he needed his final box score. And then you also needed to have the rundown, and there was like 1 million games in a rundown, and you had to have cards for each game, and you had to put notes for each card. And then the additional thing you had to do was with John Saunders. John Saunders with the shot sheets, which the shot sheets are when they're looking at highlights, the PAs come in and they hand it to you, and it tells you what the highlights are. So Saunders, most anchors would take it themselves and they would keep it. Saunders didn't do that. You just give it to the researcher. Meanwhile, I might got 15 million other things. The last thing I needed. And then you got to put it in a rundown. So, when you're coming off a commercial and then you listen to the producer, okay, we're starting in the A's, we're going this, that, and you got to put it all in order. And then you got to figure out what's Eduardo Nahara doing, and you're trying to do all this stuff. It was a mess. And so after the show, nobody said anything, but I knew Digger was pissed. I knew Saunders was pissed. They didn't say anything to them. The next day I'm doing, or 2 days later, it's Big Monday. I'm in the studio with Brian Kenny and Digger Phelps. And then you have the 7 o'clock game, 9 o'clock game, and then you have the midnight game. Okay. So right before we get set to do the 7 o'clock game, Digger says, "Mark, come here, I want to talk to you." And so I walk up. He goes, no, right here. And he put me right in front of him. And he proceeded to rip me apart like I've never been ripped apart in my life. If you can't do this, you need to get out. This is for the big boys. You can't be, you're an amateur. Everything. I mean, I wanted to bury myself in the floor. I was like, oh, geez. And so Brian Kenny, who's a friend of mine, and I really like Brian. And Brian used to, when Brian was doing ESPN News, I did the hot list with him. I don't remember the hot list, but when ESPN, me and Brian did the hot list together. Yeah. And Brian was so good at what he did. He would get bored with it. And he would just talk to me like on air, like, the researcher Mark. So Mark, and it's like right on air. So then Digger got up and he went to the bathroom. And so I just have this look on my face. And so Brian's looking at me and he's like, he's right. I'm like, yeah, thanks, Brian. But now I got to do the show. I feel like this big and now I got to do the show. Right. So, I had to take it. And, but by the end of the year, Digger wouldn't go anywhere without me. So, you learn. It took, that's not really much. I mean, there's a lot of people go through more than that, but the fact, you had to develop a theory, you had to develop things that you knew you were going to do and how quick you were going to do them. And there was a process to everything that helped me become a lot more organized. Like now I'm obsessive. So everything's organized with me. So that was something that I really learned. That if you're not organized, if you don't have your ducks in a row, you're gonna screw up, and it's not just gonna be you. Because I had the producer yelling at me, I had the PA. It was awful. But I learned from that. And then, the Emmy Awards are just something. When you're part of Sports Center, you're part of the team. You have, I did the 6 o'clock Sports Center, did the overnight Sports Center. And 2 years in a row, we won for those shows. So that, I'll never forget that. I still, it's like I still have a picture with mine, because I gave one to my mom, I gave one to my dad. And then when my dad passed away, I got it back, but they're still up with my mom in New York.
Nice.
So I used to have them and like protect them, but just to show people, like, hey, this is really me, and I really want one, and there's my name on it. People are like, you didn't do it, but it's not a big a deal as you think. But it's like I'm proud of it, and I don't care. Anything else that happens, it's something that they can't take away. But that was a long time ago now. That talking 18 years ago, it's like I wish that had more clout to it now. It's just still guys that are I'm so overqualified for some of the jobs that I try to get down here. It's embarrassing, but it's just one of those things, man.
Yeah.
It really is crazy. I remember when we were having that meeting, Mark, for the old station. And I knew our old partner Errol Marks would literally, you brought a box and it had the Emmys in it, and you pulled them out, and the entire room was just like, wait, what? The entire room like got silent. It was like everybody became paralyzed. It was amazing. He puts them down on the table. He's like, this is what you get when you work hard. I'm like, this guy just shut it, and that was a room full of obnoxious people, me included, and you knew that. And that shut everybody up, dude.
Badass.
Holy cow, man. That was fun. That was funny.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are great guys, man. You guys are great guys. I miss it. I really miss it. I miss Ryan. I talked to Errol still. But I missed that. Those were fun times.
They were.
It's true. I still miss the old routine. The coffee and the muffin rolling up in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Getting ready to talk some sports.
That was good.
It was.
That was good. That really was. I mean, that was a good setup. I
enjoyed the cafe. The food was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I mean, if you have an egg sandwich you couldn't eat on the table, you have to eat somewhere else. You couldn't have crumbs. I learned that the hard way. So yeah. I loved it, man. That was fun.
It was good. It was good stuff.
It was a blast. Still think about it from time to time, Anyway, Mark, I just kind of want to rewind a little bit. Like this, before the Emmys, before you were really tenured at ESPN, working there for a while now. Was there ever a moment where you were it could be a random day at work, could have been your first day at work, could have been when you got the call, that you had a moment to take to yourself, wow, I was given a diagnosis where I was given 6 months to live when I was a teenager. And now all of a sudden I'm here working at ESPN alongside the people that I idolized watching on TV growing up. Was there ever a singular moment for you where that thought occurred?
Well, I think you always have to be realize what you have. You have to be grateful for what you have. Believe me, there are many days where I complain and scream and cry about what life is, but overall, more days than not, that's something I try to do. So when I was getting better and then moving on through high school and finishing high school and going on to college, there was so much that I was caught up in. Like I said, you don't remember what you came from, and you really should, because it was a lot to go through, and it really changed a lot about me. But again, you have to achieve in life. You gotta do what everybody else is doing, and nobody cares. Nobody's gonna make excuses for you. Nobody's gonna, oh well, you were sick and well, poor you. And there's none of that. You have to play by the same rules. So maybe there was a bit of the other way where I felt I was owed something, and that really stopped me from doing things I easily could have done. So that was a hard lesson to learn. And then even going up through my marriage and through my divorce, there were things that I could have done better, should have done better. As a man, I owed people that I didn't do. So those were hard lessons to learn, but you're never too old to learn them. And if you're a man of God, and if you want to please God, you accept it. It's not hard. It's not easy, but you accept it. You go to the people you wronged. You make up for it best you can. Sometimes you can't. but then you make sure that you learn it and you get better, and then you take advantage of that, and you make sure that the people in your life that are in your life now, you appreciate you and you do the right thing.
Yeah. So, cancer is it's a lifelong struggle for a lot of people. And, 2008, kind of take us through that, the fact that you had to, leave ESPN a little earlier because you were having some symptoms or side effects from the treatment. Like I said, I am a son of a survivor, of a warrior woman. And, we're going through some stuff right now where, there's some residual effects from what she had back in 2014. So, really kind of, talk about that a little bit, because, it's really personal to me, and I'm sure it's personal to a lot of people out there that are struggling with this, whether it be with them or with a family member or a friend. So, I definitely want to hear, in regards to that.
Yeah, well, the thing that they didn't realize at the time is that they call them late effects. Children or teenagers that youth that have chemotherapy and radiation. The American Cancer Society refers to them as late effects because they didn't really know the long-term side effects of chemo and radiation. Now, again, chemo is probably the worst thing you could do to your body. I mean, it's literal poison that you have put through your body. And it still pisses me off that they haven't come up with something better.
Yeah.
And I remember, talking to one of my nurses and being like, okay, well, when are they going to move past this? And they're like, they ain't never moving past this. They just built a new wing on the hospital that's for chemo because there's way too much money in it to ever not do it. It's just a sin because it really does destroy you. But at the same time, I got better. So there's a catch to it. It's like, okay, would I rather have died? Probably not. So you have to accept the consequences that come with it. And it led to me having Crohn's disease, which I have now. I have bad stomach problems that, even ESPN allowed me to work from home. I still couldn't do it because it was just every day you don't. With Crohn's disease, you just don't know what you're going to expect.
Right.
And that's still why I'm on disability. I could do some things, which is why I can part-time work. But again, I can't go. My employer has to understand that, otherwise he's really going to be pissed off at me because some days I just can't do it, and I can't predict those days. And same thing with a disease called lymphedema that came about when I had my lymph nodes removed, and that caused it was a late reaction. It didn't happen for about 10 years. But then my right leg swelled up to the point where it's like 3-4 times the size of my left leg. And I mean, I can show you pictures where you're just like, geez, the hell is that? It doesn't look like a light. That, you can't move you can't wear, like I couldn't wear pants. I couldn't wear shoes. We're talking about severe swelling. Okay. And then you have to learn how to deal with it, and you got to wear wraps, and you got to, every day I got to wrap my leg, or I got to wear a garment. I had surgery done in 2016 to have lymph nodes taken out of my arm and put into my leg. It was an experimental surgery. I was one of only like 4 or 5 people that had done that at the time, learning more about it. But I don't see that doctor as much anymore. He's in New York. I have, when I go back, I do checkups and everything. He wanted to do follow-ups with me to where maybe he did another operation, but I still can't feel out of my left arm in that spot. Wow. So, and it's it did help my leg, but I still have to do all the things I did before, but it did make a difference. So I think that was the hardest thing, is because I was really in bad shape when in 2008, and I was on my couch for about 4 years where I couldn't move. It was horrible. I put my ex-wife in a horrible position where she had to help support, me. And, as a man, that's unacceptable to do, So, and it's, I think that but not only that, but now, like, what do I do with the rest of my life? It's like I was only 34 at the time, then when I started to change things a little bit, about learn how inflammation affects you, learn how sugar affects you, and all these things that really do bad things to your body, and a way to treat that. So my blood test started getting a little better. My liver test got better, and all of it started cleansing out my body a little bit. And then I started to get more and more strength. And then about 2015, that's when I started my website. I started to do podcast. I didn't know anything about podcasting. I had a guy come in and try to show me. I had to write down what I was going to say when I first started, because I was like, why am I nervous? Like, I'm not talking to anybody. Like, I'm not live, you know? And I gave myself, I said, let me do 50 shows. And at the end of 50 shows, I should be where I want to be. And I was. And I did about 120 something shows.
Wow.
But then again, dealing with the divorce, it's like things get chaotic, and I couldn't do it consistently anymore. And then when I started working with Ryan again, and I got to do it. It's something I love. And then when I came down here, I went around to some of the local TV stations, and I introduced myself, and I got a lot of no's, but I got one guy that was willing to take me on. And so I do shows with him every Wednesday, and I don't get paid. It's a volunteer. And I still, even now, I have to prove myself.
Right.
And so I said, look, you don't have to pay me. Just let me, do what I can do. I'll show you what I'm valuable, and, that I know sports, and, hopefully then we can work on something else. I'm still waiting to hear, but, every Wednesday, except for, like, there were college, high school championships yesterday, so I didn't do the show yesterday. But every Wednesday I do the show with Sky Gerard.
Nice.
And it's a little different down here now, because they're not big into pro sports.
Right.
And I really have to learn more about high school sports, which I don't really know anything about. But I know the SEC like the back of my hand. When we did the Super Bowl, obviously it was easy for me to go and do stuff like that. I had Errol and some of the guys on. They even let me have Errol and Speedy on for more White Sports, and we kind of introduced them, because they show them the New York angle of sports, and how pro sports is really important up there, but college sports is important down here. But you have the same enthusiasm. Like, the people down here, man, they know college football.
Right.
Like, I could go anywhere in this town and start a conversation with somebody, and they'll be like, "Yeah, man, Mike Jones, or Najee, he's got quick feet," or Devonta Smith. Like, they know in depth, and that's fun for me. So that part of it I really enjoy.
Nice.
That you brought up how people in the South they know college football, right? Because I remember my agent told me a story about how, like, there are a lot of radio hosts that have completely changed what their method of doing a show is down there. Like, and they kind of siphon the idea off of Paul Feinbaum. I'm sure you remember also.
Yep. Oh,
just kind of let the fans dictate the pace and the conversation of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Thanks for your call, Mary Jo. And now we got, and that's all Paul Feinbaum did. And
that's all he does. It's all he still does. I actually got onto Feinbaum. I called the show about 2 weeks before the SEC championship game, and I threw out the scenario. I'm like, okay, what if Florida beats Alabama, and then you have Florida beating Alabama, Alabama beating Texas A&M, and Texas A&M beating Florida? Like, who do you take? And he didn't know what to say. I'm like, I got you. And but Feinbaum still, he's so popular that I knew of him, but man, he's huge down here.
He's massive.
You're right. He gives, he does really great interviews too, but a lot of the show is just getting these guys that call up, and these people know, man, they know their stuff.
That's what and that's the thing, is it moves. It's a show that moves. All right. I want to ask you about your book. You have a book, and it's only one, right? You only wrote one book?
I only wrote one. Yeah,
okay.
I'm working on having another one too. I want to take the blogs that I've written, called Living as a Cancer Survivor, and publish them. I have about maybe 100 and some blogs that I've written. Yeah. Hopefully I can do that soon. But yeah, I only have my one book. Yeah.
your one book, My Scars Tell a Story, which I just bought by the by the way.
Thank you.
Because I realized I didn't even had it. I've known you for this long, and I didn't even purchase your book, so I bought your book. Now that I'm a customer, can you kind of, give me what what's the story don't give the book away, but what's the basis behind the book that you wrote?
Well, the story, I wanted to just tell the story of what my life was like before. I was a normal kid that had normal dreams, normal aspirations, and then you get, the names of the chapters to me are exactly what I was going through. Nightmare, storm. It's like a nightmare came into my life, and now you have to deal with it. And you could choose. You could either, fight, or you could give up. But at that time, you don't know to give up because you don't understand the experience yet. And then everything I went through, I explained in detail, kind of what it was like to go through the bone marrow transplant, what it was like to be diagnosed, what my family went through, what I went through. And it goes into detail about that. And then my mom has her chapter. And then at the end of it, it has a letter. At the time I published it, I was 44. So it's a 44 writing to that 16-year-old and saying how much he misses him.
Wow.
And that he'll never forget him. And it was a big part of me that was gone forever. And I never really dealt with that. So that was hard. And it'll break your heart if you read it. It gets personal, but I wanted people to feel that because everybody in life has that thing that they loved that they had taken away from them.
Yeah.
And that's what I had taken away from me. But then I had so many other things given to me.
Preparing to get my heart broken. I'm preparing, man. Oh boy. Hit him with it, Matt. Go ahead.
Mark, when you decided to put this story just on paper, did you find it difficult at times to relive some of those memories, or was it kind of a cathartic experience to hopefully touch the hearts or reach out to anyone else going through something similar that might read this book? Was that the objective you kind of had in mind when you wrote it?
Yeah, even when I wrote it, I wrote it in like the late 90s. So it was about 20 years to get published. Like I just put it aside and said, it'll never happen. And then, I forced myself to do it. And, first time publishers, it costs money. It's like, I didn't have these people knocking my door down for a book deal. Okay. So I figured, well, look, let me just do it. Whatever it costs me, it'll be worth it. It'll be published. And at least I can get the story out there. And that's why I did it. But when I wrote it, the things that came back, they were still kind of fresh in my mind because it was about 10 years past. And then I went into detail about a lot of different things. So even rereading it myself, it's like, wow, I forgot that happened, or wow, it kind of took me back to that. But what I wanted people to experience is that, everybody has something that they go through. For me, it was that, but you have other people that go through things that don't have to maybe be as dramatic as that, but it'll cripple somebody like that crippled me. And it's all relative. So they're able to relate to it by, wow, I could see how maybe this related in this way, and how your mind deals with you preparing yourself for the unknown. That's the thing. My biggest nightmare for me is the unknown, because I'm an obsessive, so I have to know, and if I don't know, I get very uncomfortable. And I think that's the biggest thing when you're sick and you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. That is one of the worst things that could happen. So that for people who are going through something like that, it gives them something to relate to, and that's why I came up with the name too. My scars tell a story, because everybody has scars, and everybody's scars tell a story. They do. I mean, stupid, the way it sounds. Like, oh, it makes sense, but it does. Everybody has individual things. Barry, you could tell me, Matt, you could tell me, Mike, you could tell me things in your life that made you who you are, that were really hard for you to go through. You have your story, and we all do. So, and me being able to share that, I think can help me. Like you said, it was cathartic writing it, and also even rereading it or thinking about, okay, if somebody else is reading it and they're going through what they're going through, it might really help them. But here's the other thing, Matt, that disappoints me now, is you can't really share that anymore because everybody's so politically correct, or everybody's so offended by certain things. You can't go into a cancer group anymore. And like, I can't go in there and tell them I have a book. They'd kick me out because it's like, oh, you're promoting yourself. Like, no, I'm really not. Like, it's what you're here to kind of share your story or, go over with, but everybody's so panicky now. It's ruined so many things. Yeah. The enjoyment of being able to connect with somebody. So that has kind of disappointed me, is because you're limited as far as what you can do now, and especially now with COVID. Hopefully now we're coming out of it, but the ability to go and to talk to people or to talk to kids or to go to high schools or just engage with them. I love doing that. I love engaging with young people. I love being able to give them perspective, because so many kids don't have that perspective on life anymore, and it's very important that they understand, how to respect their adults, how to prepare themselves to get ready for college, how to prepare themselves to deal with the real world, which I don't think too many really understand what the real world is like when you get out there. Yeah. So those are things that are invaluable.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really wanted to talk about you said that you're a man of faith, and that's really, really important to you. The fact that that's kind of like, helped you get through a lot of your issues in your life, all the trials and tribulations that you've gone through. What kind of advice would you give to other people that are going through similar experiences that you've gone through, but they don't have the faith that you have? Like, what kind of advice would you give them? Because a lot of people can't find it, but what would you kind of say to them?
Yeah, I feel for that, because I know I wouldn't know what to do, but there are people who get by, and there are people who find a way, whether it's family, whether it's a hobby, whether it's just doing something that they find that can get them back to reality, get them back to understanding their little piece of the world and how it makes sense to them. And that's the thing that I think really would concern me if I didn't have my faith, because there's so many different things that could go wrong in your life, and there's so many things that you can't control. Like, the world is pretty chaotic when you think about all the things that could go wrong in any scenario. You need your life to make sense. Like, how did you know when you came into work today that your microphone was going to work? Right. That we just had it where you couldn't hear me at first. Right. Or your chair is comfortable, or that your car doesn't start, or there's a leak in the system. There's so many things that could go wrong. To me, that gives me a basis of sense, of reality, and of perspective, of having a purpose, and having knowing that I was created for this life, and it wasn't a mistake. Right. It says in the Bible that God knows the number of hairs on your head, and just think about that. And it's very personal, and that's all I need to know. I mean, if someone loves me that much, that he died for me, and knows the intricate things about me, that's enough for me.
Okay, let's pick your brain.
Okay,
let's do this. Okay, so I know you're a big college football guy, and that's a lot of what you write about. That's a lot of what you talk about. You obviously live in Alabama now. That's all they really care about down there. Is Roll Tide. That's it.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, baby. That's right. It's great being an Alabama fan. Roll Tide.
So I've Mel Kiper said that Mac Jones has a little bit of Tom Brady in him. Now, I found that to be a little bit of a slight, because that means you're not good athletically, you don't have a great arm, but you know what? You can win some games. That was like, he's not overall that talented or that athletic, but you know what? He wins games because he plays at Alabama. So I don't even think he meant it that way, but how do you feel about Mac Jones translating into the NFL?
See, here's the thing. Somebody asked me the other day if I think Trask or Jones are going to be a better quarterback. Okay, or who would I take? Yeah. Look, I think Mac Jones isn't going to have Devonta Smith, not going to have Najee Harris, not going to have a great offensive line where nobody gets near him. You might not have that in the pros, okay? That's what I would worry about. That's the only thing I don't know about Mac Jones. Another guy asked me, is he another A.J. McCarron? Well, it turns out that Mac Jones passed for 4,500 yards one year. McCarron only passed for just under 3,100. That was his career high. Mac had a plus to turnover ratio from touchdowns to interceptions of plus 37 this year. Wow. Okay. McCarron only his best was plus 27. I mean, Mac Jones had a percentage of 77%, and he's very, very accurate. If you watch him throw the ball, he hits these guys right where they need to be hit, right on the hands. Okay. So all those things considered, I think he has a unique ability. If he gets the type of protection he got at Alabama, and if he gets time, I think he's going to be very effective. But that's hard to expect when you consider the type of athletes. Look, he had Jude, like last year, when they lost to Auburn last year, I thought he played great in that game. I mean, he made 2 mistakes, 2 pick sixes, but he came right back, and it didn't deter him. Like Eli Manning, he just kept going. Right. That's how I knew he would be good this year. And he really was this year. He threw a great deep ball. And obviously when you have Devonta Smith and you have some of the other, Najee Harris, and I mean, there's matchup nightmares at every position. So that helped him. But I think if he gets into the right situation, okay, like if he gets, maybe if he gets to back up at Kansas City, or if he gets to go somewhere where he has offensive guys that he can work with, I think he can be very good. I think Trask is probably better suited to be good right away because of the system that he played in. Now, again, you got to see the similarities between Trask and Jones. Both of them were guys that did not play until they were juniors, right, and they played because of an injury to the quarterback. Right. And if Franks didn't get injured, you would never heard of Kyle Trask. Right. And look what he did. He put up great numbers this year, better numbers than even Mac Jones. But again, Mac Jones only played like Tua, like 3.5 quarters every game because Alabama's up by 50. Right. So, I could see that comparison with Brady. That was pretty good that he said that. It's good that you picked it up. But yeah, I think he can be good, but it depends on where he goes.
I'm glad we've moved into this phase of the interview because I'm dying to hear your answer on this. So being in Alabama, being a college football aficionado, I feel like you can ask 4 different people this question and they'll give you 4 different answers. So being at Alabama, right? They're a factory for insane caliber wide receivers. Devonta Smith wins the Heisman last season, has a tremendous season. I'm not taking anything away from him, but Jamar Chase opted out. His teammate Jalen Waddle went down for the season after 4 games with an ankle injury that he had surgery for in October. And his 2 teammates, Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, were drafted the year before. Right. So I would love to hear your answer on, out of the 4 core wide receivers that played in Alabama in the past 2 years, out of Smith, Jeudy, Ruggs, and Waddle, who do you think, as Waddle and Smith are about to be drafted this year, who do you think will have the best NFL career? Or who would you pick for their career in the NFL?
Yeah, I think Waddle's unique because Waddle can do a lot of things. I mean, he can return punts. I mean, he single-handedly almost beat Auburn last year. Okay, and that was kind of his coming out party. And he would have been right up there in a fight for the Heisman if he didn't get hurt. Okay. But here's the thing that's special about Devonta Smith. Do you remember who caught the game-winning the catch in the championship game against Georgia in overtime? Who caught it?
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith. Okay, and he was a freshman with Judy. And okay, big time players make big time plays in big games. At halftime of the national championship game, he had 215 receiving yards. At halftime, everybody knew he was getting the ball, and he still ate him up alive. This guy hardly ever dropped a pass. He made a catch against LSU where he went like 15 feet in the air. I thought the ball was going to go into second row. Okay. This guy is an exceptional talent. He's the best wide receiver I've seen since Fitzgerald come out of college.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
But Jamar Chase is a special guy too.
Yeah.
People forget how good he was. It's pick A and pick B. I would gladly take either one of them. Okay. Waddle is a little smaller. Now, again, Devontae's not huge. I mean, he looks tall because he's lanky. He's got those long legs and he's got those long arms and he can leap out of the building. But he's only 6'1". Jamar Chase is going to be good too. So I would. You can't lose with either guy. But I know I've seen Smith return punts too. He seems like he can do a lot of things that would help a football team win. And especially if he comes in as like a slot receiver, oh my God, that's going to be incredibly fruitful for whoever drafts him. I always thought that he would probably go to Miami just to go back with Tua. At one point, I didn't think the Jets could let him go at number 2. I would have taken him there. But I don't know yet. I mean, I would be happy with getting either Chase or Waddle or Smith. I think you can expect different things from each of them. But as far as being a number 1 can't miss guy, Chase and Smith are probably a little better designed to handle that than Waddle is just because of their size.
Yeah, I am fascinated with the quarterback position in the draft. Obviously, we have some big guys in the draft. Lawrence, we have Wilson, but I am a big fan of Trey Lance, and I've seen reports that he's kind of dropping in a lot of people's boards for whatever reason, but I do think that this guy has Russell Wilson type of skills. What are your thoughts? I mean, where do you rank him in regards to the quarterbacks in the draft? Like, do you think that he should be within the top 10? Do you think that he's going to be somebody steal later in the first round, or is it he might have to wait, round 2 to hear his name called? But I really do think that he has big time potential to be, a starting quarterback for the next 15 years. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, yeah. What's the real scare people have about teams or quarterbacks that come out of the FBS? They haven't played against top-notch competition. Okay, Jared Goff kind of had the same thing said about him. And believe me, nobody thought he was going to be much when the Rams drafted him. He was a nightmare until he really kind of broke out, and all of a sudden he led them to the Super Bowl, and now he got traded to Detroit. So jury's still out, kind of. Okay. Yes. I look, as far as Justin Smith, when was you tell me the last good quarterback that came out of Ohio State? Right, exactly. There is none. So I think that would be
Cardell Jones.
Yeah, Cardell Jones, Barrett, Craig Krenzel, those guys, a whole list of them, So I that would be my worry there. Okay, now he proved that he was tough. Okay, he played with broken ribs. It looked like to me after he got hit in the Clemson game, and he really answered the bell in that Clemson game after leaving points on the board against Clemson last year. They should have beat Clemson last year. The difference between this year and last year is they scored touchdowns when they got in the red zone this year. Last year they didn't. That's what cost them the game last year. Now, the guy from BYU, I haven't seen that much, but I didn't think the kid that got drafted by the Chargers was going to be much, and he really had a great year. Herbert, and probably the best quarterback. I remember Errol bragging about him, telling me that, and believe me, this guy was really good. So that would scare me. Maybe I haven't done enough research on him, but again, I it's so much of an unknown with quarterbacks that you take that early because as many guys as you have, like Kyle Allen, I thought Kyle Allen was going to be the worst out of all those guys because his completion percentage was so bad. And man, he made me eat my words this year. He played unbelievably well this year. And you look at some of the other guys from that draft class, most of them have been pretty successful. Okay. And a guy like Russell Wilson, they had signed, the Seahawks signed a free agent from Green Bay that was supposed to take over the quarterback there. And Russell Wilson, coming out of Wisconsin, third round draft pick, gets the job.
Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn was the guy.
Matt Flynn, yes, exactly. He had one big game against New England on Sunday night, and then and then you're supposed to be great. But I think that because there is that little bit of an unknown, Trey Lance could be a guy that can really have those qualities that you don't know about until you see him in practice. Because Brady, was a 6th round pick. Gianmarzo Carmazzi was taken ahead of him. Chad Pennington was taken ahead of him. Okay. Now, I thought Pennington was going to be good. Maybe it would have been, better than he had been if he didn't get his arm hurt.
Yeah, Pennington had the mind. He just didn't have the arm strength anymore. Yeah. So
you never know how a guy can read the defense. You never know how he's going to be able to handle a rush. Right. You don't know those things about him. The biggest thing that really disappoints me is, when they go and they do the 40-yard dash and they, all that stuff. I mean, Mike Mamula, I don't know if you remember him, but he was a guy that specifically trained for those exercises, wound up doing them all great. And then he was, it wasn't a bust, but he was like a third pick overall. And I mean, you just don't know because a guy's athletic. That doesn't mean he's going to have those qualities that lead him to being one of the best players at the position. At quarterback, you need to be able to do those things. Yeah. So I really wouldn't put him any far lower than a guy like Justin Smith. I think he can be just as good. But again, there's so much of that unknown with those guys that you don't know until you get them into practice and you see how they're able to communicate with their teammates and then understand the offense, these complex offenses, all those things. But also we're seeing now the game changing to where it's more athletic. And you need to be able to run the option. You need to be able to be mobile. Yeah. The game's changing. And so I think that he would probably work out a little bit better than he would have maybe 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jeremiah said this. He said, look, if you're, I don't know, there might be a lot of people that don't like Trey Lance because, if you're into guys that, never lose and don't throw any interceptions, then he might not be your guy who, but because that's what Trey Lance did this year, last year, 28 touchdowns, no picks, and ended up winning the championship. But okay, here we go, Mark. Let's test this out. Who was the first rookie since Allen Iverson to have two consecutive games scoring at least 35 points?
Gosh, recently. NBA. Did he play for the Heat? Was that the guy? I don't know. You got me. Gosh. And NBA, I'm not going to be. I play NBA 2K.
All right, fine.
I'm sorry, I let you down. But who is it?
Trae Young.
Okay.
Oh, the guy oh yeah, he's really good on the Hawks. Yeah. That's a good question. Hey, I let you down. I'm sorry.
No, don't be. Okay, I'm gonna try and find some crazy good NFL trivia questions. You guys continue the interview. I did good.
I came through, huh? Geez, boy.
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry. First question. I don't know. This guy knows that. This guy's great.
An absolute encyclopedic.
This guy's that's gonna be about a modern NBA player. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Luckily,
it's funny because I the stuff that happens now. Like I really don't watch many live sports events now, especially NBA. I don't watch it like I watch the NHL or college football. So,
Yeah.
I can definitely answer. Like, if you ask me who scored the most points in the 80s, I could tell you Alex Ingles. But
Yeah, give us some old school stuff, Mike. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
I'm
I
I'm
do that.
looking.
I can tell you, Kenny Lofton played on the 1988 Arizona team with Judd Bushler and Steve Kerr.
Okay. All right, here we go. How many current NFL teams, you're gonna know this. How many current NFL teams have never played in a Super Bowl, Mark?
Okay. Well, yeah. Jacksonville never played in the Super Bowl. Houston never played in the Super Bowl. Detroit never played in the Super Bowl. And like, here's the one that I don't agree with: Cleveland. But Cleveland did, because when they came into the NFL in 1970, that Cleveland Brown team is a Ravens, so they actually did play in the Super Bowl. But the reinvention of the Browns did. So it's 4 teams, and those are the 4 teams.
All right, that's correct. All right. See, there you go. You redeemed
Nice.
yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Good.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, and you didn't just answer the question; you gave us a history lesson. So there we go.
oh, well, yeah.
You're perfect.
Yeah. Always comes with perspective.
All right.
The Super Bowl trivia is that's easy for me. I mean, but same thing with World Series trivia, all that stuff. That stuff's kind of easy.
I'm throwing this one out to the floor. So Mark will get first crack at it, but if anyone else knows the answer, you can blurt it out. Okay, everyone's ready.
Okay.
Got your buzzers ready? Okay. Who led the NFL in receiving yards in the year 2013?
Oh, goodness.
2013. Let's see, Denver and Seattle in the Super Bowl. I like Percy Harvin. I don't know.
So we got a Percy Harvin. Mike or Barry? Got guesses?
I am going with
No cheating.
no.
Or maybe Eric Decker.
I want to say it was like, oh my gosh.
Maybe it was Eric Decker.
I'm going Terrell Owens.
Terrell Owens.
I'm gonna say T.Y. Hilton.
Okay, everyone's locked and loaded. Those are your final answers?
Yes.
All right. Wrong. All of you.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Okay.
The receiving yard leader in 2013 with 1,646 yards was Josh Gordon.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Was that his second year in the league?
Yeah, I guess that was the big Josh Gordon year.
Catching passes from
2013.
Brandon Whedon.
Jeez.
My God.
Brandon Whedon. Oh my God. Wow.
How
All right, Mark,
quickly the league changes.
Mark, I got one for you. Give me the Super Bowl scores of the Bills for the 4 consecutive Super Bowls.
All right. Well, they lost to the Giants 20-19, and they lost to Dallas 52-17. Then they lost to the Redskins 37-24, and then they lost 30-13 against Dallas second time.
Nice.
Very good.
Beautiful.
Let me tell you the teas and where the games were.
You got the only ones you got mixed up was the Dallas and the Washington. So Dallas was in 93, Washington was in 92.
I didn't do it in order. Yeah.
But you got all those scores right. You're good.
All right.
Yeah, let me ask you guys a question. Okay.
Yes.
Here we
Go
go.
ahead.
All right.
This is bad.
Here you go.
I'm scared.
All right. The 2 players to win the 2 offensive players to win Super Bowl MVP. 2 offensive players win Super Bowl MVP without scoring a touchdown. Without scoring or being involved in a touchdown.
Wow.
Well, that's a good one.
Julian Edelman is one of them.
Bingo. Very good.
Julian Edelman, I know for a fact, was one of them. All right, I got one. You guys get the other. I'll keep thinking.
That was good. That was good.
Scoring or being involved in a touchdown.
So actually, it's a quarterback. This guy, didn't throw a touchdown pass, didn't run for a touchdown.
It's a quarterback?
Didn't throw it. What?
Is it it's a quarterback you just said?
It's a quarterback. Yeah, because quarterbacks are make up 75% of the Super Bowl MVPs.
Quarterback.
This guy also didn't throw a pass the entire 4th quarter.
Peyton Manning.
Nope.
No.
Oh.
No, I'm gonna.
He should not be in the NFL Hall of Fame, but he is.
He shouldn't be in the NFL Hall of Fame.
No way.
But he
No way.
is.
But he is. I mean, like, I guess he has to be, but he really shouldn't be. He threw 74 more interceptions than touchdowns.
Joe Namath.
Joe Namath.
Bingo.
I beat you. I got it right, Mike. I'm smarter than you.
Yeah. I got you. Once you said more interceptions than touchdowns, I was like, yep, that's Joe Namath.
I knew Edelman was one of them right away because he won MVP in 18, and there was only one touchdown that whole game, and it was a rushing touchdown by Michelle.
That's weird. I mean, right? You figure a guy winning an MVP will score a touchdown somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
He had what? I think he had like 9 catches for like 175 yards, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stat line. I don't know about Super Bowl MVP worthy, but that was a.
Well, I mean, who else were you going to give it to unless you gave it to defensive side? Here's another one. Who's the only player to win the MVP on a losing team?
Oh God, I feel like I should know that.
I can give you the Super Bowl. I don't know if it's going to make a difference, but
what Super Bowl is it?
Super Bowl 5.
I was going to say it's got to be from forever ago.
I'm not going to get it.
I don't know either.
It was a Cowboy. They lost to the Colts 16-13.
Oh God, now I should definitely know it. I'm a Cowboy fan. This is terrible. Oh no. Barry, you're another Cowboy fan. You have any idea? And you're older than me.
I don't know.
You were around for Super Bowl 5,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, come on. Right? I wasn't born. I wasn't born either, but yeah.
It's not Starbuck, is it?
Yeah, it's Chuck Howley.
Chuck Haley.
Okay.
Huh.
All right, Mark. I got 2 for you.
On a losing team. Interesting.
Interesting.
I got 2 questions.
That should happen more often, honestly.
Yeah.
I'll give you the easier one first.
All right.
Or I don't know. Maybe it's easier for me. But not this past year, but the year before, 2019, that season, there were 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that threw more than 20 interceptions. Who were they?
Well, obviously, Jameis Winston is one of them.
Jameis Winston, correct.
More than 20 interceptions.
Jameis Winston threw 30. So
yeah, I know. He put 30. He went 30 for 30.
Yeah, right. They gonna make an ESPN 30 for 30 about the 30 for 30?
They should.
They should. They should. All right. Let's see. 20 interceptions.
I'll give you a hint. 2 of the 3 switched teams the next year. One of them obviously was Jameis Winston, Tampa Bay to New Orleans.
Can you repeat the question?
In 2019, there were 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that threw more than 20 interceptions. Who were they?
So when you say switch teams, they switched teams in 2020. So this year they were the different team?
Correct. Yes.
2 of the 3.
2 of the 3 switched teams. Jameis Winston went from Tampa Bay to New Orleans.
Cam Newton?
No.
No.
Not Cam Newton.
Is Baker one of them?
Baker Mayfield is one.
Baker Mayfield. Okay.
Phillip Rivers.
That's right.
And Phillip Rivers was the
Phillip
other.
Rivers. Wow.
From the Chargers to Indianapolis. Okay, here's my second one.
Phillip Rivers. Wow. Do you think he'd be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes, he should.
Doesn't have a ring.
I don't know.
He's had some good runs, though. Doesn't matter if he has a ring.
Playoff wins.
I was going to say, how many? Does he have a playoff win?
He has
don't have many.
He has a few.
Has he ever been to a conference? He's never even been to a conference title game, has he?
But he went to one. Yeah,
he went to one. He went
but
to one
actually,
against the
Billy Bowler kind of led him there because he got hurt at the end of that game against the Colts.
Well, Mark, you think numbers alone doesn't get him in, so he needs, you know, longevity, and he does have the numbers. So when you look at the numbers, obviously, football is a little different in regards to that, but if you're gonna base it on numbers, he does.
He'll get in.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get have a chance. Yeah,
he'll get it. I mean, Dan Fouts didn't win either,
right?
And he didn't. But again, it's he out of those 3 guys, out of Eli, Roethlisberger, and him, I think he had obviously the one who didn't win. Roethlisberger won 2, Manning won 2. I'm sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. No, that's fine. It actually brings up another question that I'd rather ask you than the trivia question that I was going to ask.
So I'm doing pretty good. I got 2 wrong, right?
So there are, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are 3 quarterbacks in NFL history that have won more than one Super Bowl and are not in the Hall of Fame. I believe there's 3. There might be 4, but I think there's 3. Who are they, and should they be?
That have won more than one Super Bowl.
That have won more than one Super Bowl. There are only, I think, what the hell? I wrote it down and I don't have it anymore. I should.
Do you mean not in the Hall of Fame yet, or they were considered? And
they are not
up?
in the Hall of Fame.
Not in the Hall of Fame,
or they didn't get in at all.
Yeah.
I would say Eli, I guess.
Eli is one, correct?
Yeah. Aikman's in the Hall. Kurt Warner's in the Hall.
I think Kurt Warner only won 1.
Yeah, he only has 1.
That's right. He played for 2 different teams.
Let me see. Find the other one.
Peyton's in the.
Correct.
You want to do with 2 different teams. Obviously, Brady will be in. Staubach is in the Hall of Fame. Bradshaw's in the Hall of Fame. Bart Starr is in the Hall of Fame. Correct. Yes. Right. First 3 Super Bowl MVPs were Alabama quarterbacks. Let's see.
So obviously 2 of them.
So Jim Plunkett.
Jim Plunkett. Yes, Jim Plunkett.
That's a good one.
He won't get it.
Eli, Ben, and Jim Plunkett.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say Ben, but yeah.
He's not eligible yet. Yeah, but Plunkett was a guy who was the #1 pick for the Patriots, and he kind of got hot at the end of his career. Now, he won't get in though.
Yeah, so you really think that he's not gonna get in, or you think that he shouldn't get in?
He won't get in. No, he shouldn't be in.
Okay.
He shouldn't be in. It wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough.
All right. Up until 2018, who was the only player in NFL history to have rushed for a 99-yard touchdown?
Tony Dorsett.
Tony Dorsett, correct.
1982 at the Metrodome. I remember that. It was on Monday Night Football. How about this? The player who ran for the longest run without scoring a touchdown. I was at the game.
I'm telling you,
I mean, you'll never get it. Okay?
I have no idea.
Here's the thing about Jets history that I love saying. Okay, there's only 2 players in NFL history that intercepted 2 passes in overtime, in an overtime period. Okay, Frank Midfield is one of them. Played for the Cleveland Browns. The other guy is, remember the Monday Night Miracle?
Yes.
Okay, Marcus Coleman. Remember Marcus Coleman?
Yes.
Okay. And the Dolphins' overtime drive, Marcus Coleman intercepts Jay Feely, and then he fumbles. And I think it was Thurman Thomas, because he was on the Dolphins at the time, recovers it, right? And meanwhile, I went to the game and we left early. Okay, so me, Felica, and this other guy, Sanford Appel, we went to the game. And we all left early. Sanford bitched us out for years about it because I can't believe we left early. I'm like, if we would have stayed, the Jets never would have won. So the other thing is that now the Dolphins get the ball back and they get a first down because that was on 3rd down. So He had possession, fumbles it. So the very next play, he intercepts Fiedler again. That was so Marcus Coleman. So Marcus Coleman. And the other thing that I was about the Jets, what were we talking about? Because there was, and now I forgot. Longest runs without scoring a touchdown. Yeah. Okay. So the other interesting thing is Johnny Johnson, September of 1994, had a 90-yard run. He got pushed out at like the 2. He went from like the 5 to the 5. And he didn't score. And that's still the record for the longest run in NFL history without scoring.
Wow.
And the funny thing about that is the Jets didn't even get a field goal. They went for it on 4th down, didn't make it. And they wound up losing that game.
Very jet-like. Very jet-like. Yes.
Very jet-like. Jack Trudeau started that game for Boomer Esiason.
Oh my goodness.
Told
Yep.
you, man, this guy knows everything. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was just there.
I was just there. That's
was
part
there.
of it. That's part of the
Right,
experience.
that's part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was fun. I was at the Spike game too, man.
Really?
I'll never forget that.
Wow.
Marino Spike game.
Who was the only person to have won a Super Bowl as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach?
I didn't even know there was someone. Who
All right, and as player, assistant coach, and as a head coach. See, Dan Reeves never won a Super Bowl,
I think I might know.
but I know he accomplished that. Mike Ditka.
Mike Ditka.
I was
Nice.
gonna say that.
Bang. Mike
Nice.
Ditka.
I was gonna say that.
That's a
Very
one.
good. All right.
I was like you remember the Bear, the super fans?
Yeah. Yes.
Those Swarovski super fans. Yeah, Ditka against the Hurricane.
That's right.
But the Hurricane, his name's Hurricane Ditka.
Da Bears.
The Bears.
Bears.
The Bears. I love that.
Mark, I have to ask you. This is current NFL stuff. Me and Mike, we're Cowboys fans. I need to know, what are your thoughts about this whole Dak Prescott quarterback contract situation? Have you ever seen anything like it? And what should be, what should they do going forward? Like, it's not an easy thing to kind of say they should do this or they should not do that or whatever. But like, what are your thoughts about like what type of spot they're in? Because it's very unique.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Remember last year, that if Dak wasn't there, they would never won that game against the Falcons, which just was so Falcon-like how they lost that game. But he had an unbelievable start to the season,
Right.
and if he didn't get hurt, I think eventually, I definitely think they would have won that weak division. Okay. He's a unique talent. Reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson. He hasn't played enough yet to really show that. Okay. And he doesn't really have the offensive line that he had when he first came in, because he had a great offensive line when he first came in.
Right.
But I think he's a winner. It's hard. Like, you can't just let these guys go. I mean, the most important position in the NFL is quarterback. So if you like Deshaun Watson, like whoever gets Deshaun Watson, or getting a guy who scored 40 touchdowns, 7 picks, led the league in passing yards. I mean, and he's young, so that's rare to find. I mean, the Peyton Mannings and the Andrew Lucks, they don't come around every time. And when you draft a guy, it's hit or miss. I mean, the Jets have when Ryan Fitzpatrick has the second most passing yards in Jets history. He's the only other quarterback. Only one Jet is thrown for 4,000 yards, and that was the first guy to ever do it. Namath.
Yeah.
Mark Sanchez.
Fitzpatrick, I know, it was Namath. And Fitzpatrick came second. He threw 3,900 yards, and is the only Jet to throw 30 touchdowns. I mean, just think of that. Like, everybody throws for 4,000 yards now.
Right.
Yep.
And no other Jet has done it but Namath. So they've gone their whole franchise really without having a quarterback.
Wow.
So you can't consistently win if you don't have a quarterback. Dak, to me, is a winner. He's a winner. I think that defensively, Dallas has always been challenged, and they've always seemed to let him down in that area. And definitely early in the season, they were a mess defensively. They have 1,000,000 yards. But I would resign him. If they don't, what else are they going to do? I mean, Andy Dalton. I mean, come on.
Go get Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, that'll work.
Hey,
Yeah.
Let's draft Trey Lance. There we go.
Well, yeah, I mean, if whoever drafts, like, if you have a team that has a quarterback and they could draft a guy like Mac Jones or Kyle Trask, like that I think would be the best situation for them, because they'd allow them to learn and to be where they don't have to do everything at first. I think they're good enough to be able to do that. that's a unique situation. Remember, Aaron Rodgers didn't start when he first came in.
Yeah.
You know, he went to Brett Favre, and he did great. I mean, I don't know if you remember, that was a big to-do with whether Alex Smith was going to go first or Aaron Rodgers was going to go first.
Right.
And Alex Smith was a bust for most of his career until Harbaugh got there. No one ever heard of Alex. Like, Alex Smith was probably one of the worst first-round quarterbacks taken in history. And then his whole career changed.
Yeah, it was interesting, man. You know, I remember that year, you know, him coming out of Utah, and, you know, Aaron Rodgers was the guy, you know, and, you know, we were shocked to see how far he dropped. You know, it was amazing. It was really amazing.
And he had a better pro career.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing, though, okay? Because me and Errol, so like me and Errol will fight because I don't think there's any argument you can make whatsoever that doesn't have Brady being the greatest, first of all, the greatest quarterback to play, bar none. But to me, he's the greatest athlete to play any sport, bar, because if you're going to base criteria on anything, and you look at what he's done at his age, winning the most, only Bill Russell's won more championships than he has, you know, and Yogi Berra, I guess. The fact that if you look at, he's thrown for more yards and more touchdowns in his 40s than he did in his 20s. His winning percentage in his 20s, 30s, and 40s is exactly the same. I mean, and he's 43, going to be 44, and just won a Super Bowl. Like, I wrote an article comparing him to Jordan, Gretzky, and Babe Ruth. All those guys, Gretzky was done by 33. You know, he still played, but he didn't play. Like, he was awesome from 18 to 32. He only got to have 200 points in the season. He did it 4 times. And then you have Babe Ruth was done by 38. And Jordan, when he came back with the Wizards, 37 and 38 or 38 and 39, Jordan was a shell of his former self. Didn't even make playoffs either year. So Brady's continued. The greatness has continued. No other quarterback's done it. Like, if you're going to have criteria, really, what else are you going to base it on? So Aaron Rodgers is a guy that, to me, has failed too many times in the postseason. The only Super Bowl he won in 2010, they had a million injuries. They should have never won that year. 2011, they go 15-1 and lose to the Giants in the divisional round. And then the only other time he sniffed the Super Bowl was when they lost to the Seahawks in that game where it failed to recover an onside kick. You know, they got their butt kicked last year. They blew the chance this year. So, you know, I don't know if he's going to win another one. And if he doesn't win another one, he has great numbers, doesn't throw any picks, throws a lot of touchdowns, but he's kind of, you know, he's not better than Drew Brees, I don't think, you know, so.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
He's not better than Drew Brees. What?
Well,
not.
Drew Brees is over 5,000 yards, like 5 times. Like, he's the only guy to do it more than once.
The guy completes. Drew Brees.
Drew Brees didn't have a running game for like 5 straight years.
Drew Brees completes 70% of his throws, like
Drew
years
Brees,
in a row.
Drew Brees is the modern day Dan Marino. Don't tell me nothing about Drew Brees. Tell me nothing about Drew Brees.
My God.
Drew Brees is a champion.
We're talking about Aaron here. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers, okay? Mr. Discount Double Check. He's the GOAT.
Right.
GOAT. Okay.
All right. So is Patrick Mahomes better than Drew Brees too?
No, he got time. He's still got time.
So what?
All right.
So Barry, what would you say? Like, obviously you're an Aaron Rodgers fan. Like, what would you say is the biggest thing you're disappointed in his career?
It's definitely the playoff missteps. You know, there's a lot of times you can put it on Mike McCarthy's blundering. You can put it on a whole bunch of other stuff. But at the end of the day, quarterbacks win you championships. Quarterbacks can lose you championships. And it's going to fall on him. So I understand the criticism. This year hurt. I think this year more than any other year, like, they were primed to win that game. And, you know, I guess I'll ask you about this, Mark. What are your thoughts about the call about Matt LaFleur not allowing Aaron Rodgers to go for it on 4th down? Like, everybody talks about how they're at the 6, or where were they at? I think they were at the 7.
Go for it. Yeah,
it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if you're on the 2, on the 7, on the 12. You let him have a chance to even throw the ball. Like, so it's like, okay, yes, they lost, but is it really Aaron Rodgers' fault that they lost this game? But it falls on him, because
it always falls on the quarterback.
Yeah,
it falls on him because he had 3 drives to do it.
Yes,
and
they didn't do it. Yes.
And that, like, it is what it is, I mean, that was his time. If he was going to beat Brady, he was at home.
Yeah.
The defense stepped up. They were down by a lot. He led them back. The defense made some big stops. Yeah. Brady threw the miscommunication with him.
3 straight
and
picks.
Evans.
3 straight picks.
3 straight picks where Evans looked like he was playing for a different team. So, but he got those breaks, and now you got to take advantage of those breaks. Yeah. Brady takes advantage of those breaks. Look, my biggest argument with this, it was with the Belichick and Brady argument. You guys tell me how you feel, okay? You have, I'm not doubting Belichick's a good coach. Obviously, he's a good coach, okay? But the people that talk about the Patriot way and all this stuff, it was Brady, bar none, only Brady. Belichick, to me, can't take any of that credit when you look at who he was before Brady got there. One season Brady missed and they didn't make the playoffs. I know they won 11 games with Matt Castle, but Kansas City also won a division with Matt Castle. So it's not like, it's a second coming.
Yeah.
And now, you saw what happened. Brady wins the Super Bowl his first year away from Belichick, and Belichick loses. But the other thing is this. Whenever Belichick's defense had to make a stop to win a Super Bowl, they never did. Okay? The only exception was when Seattle had a brain fart and didn't run the ball into the 1-yard line. But you look at the Rams game, okay? They allow the tying touchdown in final 2 minutes. Against the Carolina Panthers, same guy, Ricky Prohl, caught the game tying touchdown, final 2 minutes. They blew the game both games against the Giants by allowing a go-ahead score in the final minute. And then you have the game against Seattle, okay, where they really should have lost. But look, the defensive back made a great play, okay? He was coached up to make that play. So I'll give you credit there.
They give up 900 yards to the Falcons.
Yeah. And against, what about the Eagles?
And the Eagles, yeah.
Okay, they gave up the most in Super Bowl history. So, and then they're down 28-3 against the Falcons, and, Brady leads them back. So it's like, how much credit outside of the Rams game, how much credit can he really get? They should have won every game. If his defense could make a stop, they would have beat the Giants twice. So I find it hard for people who say that, oh no, it was Belichick or this and that. I'll give Belichick credit for being a very good coach, but if he didn't have Brady, it would be totally different.
That's a good point.
What do you guys think?
That's a good point. No, I've always been on the side of, I've always leaned more Belichick than Brady, but I think any rational person would believe that it sort of takes a combination of the two.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I think a rational person would say that it takes a combination of the two.
Right.
You're right.
Every time Brady keeps winning, it makes our argument a little bit harder, right? Like it's just it's pain in he's a thorn in my side. Just is, man. God. Does Peyton Manning have a lick in that conversation?
Because of course he does.
I've never.
Here's
the thing. This is Peyton Manning's my guy.
That's
and the reason I'm saying that is because
I
I know that the accolades aren't as far as winning and everything like that. And I knew that he had instances where he fell short in the playoffs and everything I'm aware of all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I have never seen a quarterback single-handedly command a huddle, dissect defenses. I think Peyton Manning's the smartest quarterback that's ever played. Yeah. I think it's just he just played the position differently. I think he completely changed what an elite quarterback, what a Hall of Fame quarterback looked like. Like that, he was just the best quarterback I've ever seen, Mark.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I mean, there were a lot of things I liked about Manning. The one thing, though, that hurts his case. Like you said, losing to the Steelers in 2005, losing to the Chargers in 2007, losing to the Chargers in 2008, and then that game against the Ravens with the Broncos, that was a killer. And the game against the Colts, with the Broncos, that was a killer too. So he had a lot of those games. But for the people who make an argument about Joe Montana had some bad playoff games too. I mean, he lost to the Giants in 85, 17-3, and he lost to him in 86, 49-3. So, you're going to have bad playoff games. Same thing with Mahomes. Mahomes had a great start. He had a bad Super Bowl, but everybody has bad playoff games if you play long enough. Right. Okay. Now the thing about, Manning isn't, as far as regular season quarterbacks, there isn't that much of a difference. But you look at the fact that Brady has a higher winning percentage by 100 points. It's unfair to compare anybody else to it. It's just unfair. When Manning knew how to win, when you saw the difference with the Colts without him, where they just absolutely fell apart. They were like 1-15. But then they drafted the other Luck, and then they started winning with him. Yeah. But Manning was one of those rare guys that, if you remember how he played as a rookie, he struggled early on.
28 interceptions.
And then, 28 interceptions, 26 touchdowns. But then he learned the second year, 13-3. Yeah. And it took him a little while to win in the playoffs. I remember losing 41-0 to the Jets, for crying out loud. And then losing to like Lamar Smith in Miami in 2000, that was pretty bad. But his first playoff win was against Denver, I believe, and then they beat Kansas City in the divisional round, where he beat Trent Green, I think 38-35. That was a great game. Yeah. And then also in a championship game against Brady, down 21-3, one of the best games I ever saw in my life.
The Super Bowl year,
getting to the Super Bowl, and that was really his coming out party, because I remember when Brady had a chance to win the game there, and then I think Marlon Jackson intercepted him. You saw the relief finally. Thank God I finally got to the Super Bowl.
Right.
That was nice to see. I never rooted for Brady. I still don't root for Brady. And I always rooted for Manning over him because I liked Manning. I really did. I just think it's hard to compare anybody else to him. Just like people want to say, Dan Marino, he played in it, but Marino, you want to talk about playoff stinkers? The guy won one road playoff game, and that was the last one, the second to last one he played in at Seattle in 1999. Okay, Mark Sanchez won 4 road playoff games. So, you can't explain some things.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I have my top 5 quarterback rating of all time, my ranking. Who is in your top 5? Because I would love to know that.
Well, obviously, Brady and Manning. I would put Montana there because I remember how dominant Montana was at those drives you needed to win games. He was so cool, man. Such a cool character back there. I mean, just the Super Bowl numbers. He was flawless in the Super Bowl. And then the other guys, at this point, you're going by personal choice. The guys that you like, the guys that, you can identify with. As far as guys that I would want to play on my team, that I would like to have start for me. It's a little difference between the older guys and the newer guys. Okay, now everybody throws for 4,000 yards. Yeah, exactly. Now everybody has a completion percentage over 70%. Now everybody throws 40 touchdowns. Okay, right. It wasn't like that before. Kenny Stabler was a guy I loved because he was gritty. He was a winner. He was a fighter. He was a guy that he epitomized the Raiders. Okay, and the Raiders were tough and they represented something. And Al Davis, to me, a lot of people say a lot of things about it, but he was great for football. There'll never be another Al Davis.
Right.
He had such a personality. His players loved him. He took guys that were losers and people gave up on, and he turned them into winners. And if if you looked at Stabler and just battles with the Steelers and all this stuff, to me, he's a personal choice. I just love Kenny Stabler.
I like that.
But he's nowhere near as far as statistics or other stuff. That would be just a personal guy I like. And then another guy I would take. It's Brees is a guy that puts up numbers, but here's the thing that sticks out about him. He's in a passing offense. He's in an offense that's geared for yards. Okay, but again, when you look at the amount of people that have thrown for 5,000 yards, only one guy has done it more than once, and
Yes.
he's done it 5 times.
And that's Brees.
Okay, and that's Brees. So, look, he's had some stinkers in the playoffs. He only won a road playoff game too. So, but he came into a losing situation, and you remember what the Saints were before he got there.
Yeah.
They were a losing franchise. They never represented everything.
Right.
And he turned them into winners. He purposely went there to turn them around after Katrina. That to me speaks volumes about who he is. So that's another thing I think that makes him special to me.
Yeah.
But look, guys, is he better than Rodgers? You can make an argument for all those guys, and you wouldn't be wrong. So, but that to me, those would be my 5.
What about you, Mike?
For me, oh God. Yeah, Brady and Peyton. Brady and Peyton have to be in there. Montana has to be in there. I would probably say Breeze, and I would probably say Terry Bradshaw.
Okay. What about you, Matt?
Oh man, I mean, I'm a baby. I don't even know if I have a.
It don't matter, man. Don't matter.
Yeah, he's gonna say Mahomes, Russell Wilson,
Yeah.
Daniel Jones.
Yeah, exactly. How'd you know? All right. Okay. So yeah, Brady, Manning, Montana. I didn't hear an Elway. No one said Elway. I'll be different and put him in there.
He's in my top 5.
Okay, so Brady, Montana, Manning, Elway.
Got about one.
Yeah, and yeah, I'll put Breeze. All time.
You know who I didn't hear? I didn't hear Brett Favre.
He's in my 5.
Yeah.
Brett Favre.
Oh, Brett Favre.
He's in my 5. Listen,
If you're John Madden, you'll love Brett Favre.
I love that guy,
Favre.
man.
Yeah,
Love that
but he
guy.
made so many dumb plays.
Yes, he did.
So many dumb passes, so many dumb things that cost him playoff games, stupid decisions.
He played like he was in the Sandlot, man. Like I love his enthusiasm when he was on the field. So, I definitely have Manning. I gotta put Brady in there, obviously. Elway, Favre,
Rodgers.
No, I listen. If I gotta pick one Packer, I'll take Favre out of there and I'll put Rodgers in there. But then
Not Len Dickey?
No. I'll be a little biased. I'm going to put Troy Aikman in there. I loved Troy Aikman. I think Troy Aikman was one of the coolest, best leaders that we've seen at the quarterback position in NFL history.
Yeah.
The guy, stat-wise, he wasn't a stat filler. It wasn't that type of era for the quarterback.
Yeah.
It was a running back type of era. But, just his leadership, just his poise, just his command of how he represented that football team, that franchise, you got to put him up there, man. And, he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, Emmitt Smith is one of the 5 best runners of all time. But
yeah,
I don't know. Is Aikman better than Staubach? Like, is he even the best Cowboy quarterback of all time?
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
Staubach had unique ability. Yeah.
I think Staubach is more beloved. Like if you talk about, nobody talks about Aikman the way they talk about Staubach. You know,
he's like a god. Yeah.
That was the funniest thing. So Peyton's Place is this, obviously, new ESPN program that Peyton Manning, goes to all these different places and teaches people about the history of the NFL and all that stuff. It's great. I love watching it. Again, I'm a big Peyton Manning guy, but there's a clip of Archie Manning holding Cooper, right? Their non-football playing brother, holding Cooper in his arms, and Peyton is standing like right next to right next to Archie, and the reporter says, "Who's your favorite football player, Peyton?" And he says, "My dad."
Yeah,
And
I know that.
he goes over to Cooper. "Who's your favorite football player, Cooper?" "Roger Staubach." This is the funniest thing. All right. So, Mark, I guess you kind of answered our question before.
Big spoiler. Yeah, I was
I
disappointed.
know. You kind of spoiled it. You ruined it.
The
But
big-
No,
wow.
Mike, don't let him off the hook. He's gonna have to give us another answer. Damn that.
But we asked this to everybody that we interview on this program. Who is the greatest athlete of all time in any sport?
All right. Yeah, greatest athlete I think is different. The greatest player to play, I would probably say Brady.
Okay.
But the greatest athlete, let's see. Yeah, it's hard not to say
However you
Michael
interpret
Jordan.
it. So it could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, it's your opinion. Yeah, you can say
know,
whatever you want.
We've had a bunch of different answers. It's not like there's a right or a wrong. We've had everybody we've interviewed has given us a different answer. We haven't had one guy. We haven't had one person give us the same.
Yeah, no
We haven't
repeat
had
answers.
one answer twice.
No repeat answers.
I would say the guy I hear the most stories about as far as being a total freak of nature, okay, would be Will Chamberlain. A guy that, I mean, Will wasn't shy. He'll tell
Right.
you himself.
Yeah.
He'll tell you the reason why he was better than Jordan, he'll tell you, is because they did things to take away from his greatness. Like they made the lane bigger so you couldn't stay in a lane, you couldn't dunk, like all these things they did to stop him from being dominant. Where, in his words, he said everything that Jordan had made Jordan better because they were helping him.
Right.
He goes, so Michael, so until they start changing the game to take away your greatness, you can't say it. Was so funny when they interviewed him.
Yeah, Will Chamberlain was one cocky dude, man.
Yeah.
He
Oh
knew
yeah,
he was great.
I have loved it. But then he talks about how he bent 600 pounds, and he's like, oh yeah, 600 pounds, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he was in those movies, he was in the movies with him.
Yeah.
When they
Conan.
did, yeah, Schwarzenegger said he could pick him up like a toothpick. And he played on the Harlem Globetrotters, okay, before he became a pro. And he was a guy that could run. He said he could run to 40 and like 4.43. You said he had like a 50-inch vertical leap. I mean, like all the things you said that like
Superman.
I mean, so I love Chamberlain, a special place in my heart for him. But it would be hard not to say Michael Jordan because Jordan was just that. Man, he broke my heart so many times. He broke my heart so many times. I hate that guy. I always.
Mark, I'll tell you a story about myself. Like, growing up as a kid, I guess I was put, like the Lakers were put on me. My mom was a big Laker fan. She hated the Celtics. And I remember in 91 where Jordan destroyed the Lakers in the finals. That was like my introduction to basketball. And I was like, this man needs to be stopped. Like, why would he do this to the Lakers? Why would he embarrass my team like this?
I know.
So he's broken a lot of hearts, man.
I know. But if you remember that game 3, once that Pippen fouled out when Divac got that play, that gave him the lead, okay? Like that game should have ended there, and they allowed them to take up the ball full court, and then Jordan just kind of brought it up and hit the jumper. Yeah. And that changed the whole series. Then they might have 2-1. But here's the thing. I believe with all my heart, if Magic didn't get sick, they would have retooled and they would have given him a battle. I don't know if they could have beaten Jordan, but
they would have been
definitely
back. Yeah.
They would have been back. If you remember, like in that offseason, they got a guy called Sedale Threet.
Yes. And
Threet was a perfect backup. He would have been perfect. Like Magic again was transitioning because now you didn't have Kareem anymore. Didn't have a guy to just I mean, he had Divac, he had Michael Thompson that was still there. He had Sam Perkins. I mean, basically it was just posting up. It would be Magic posting up, Divac posting up, Perkins posting up, Worthy posting up.
The game was changing.
Also, and Byron Scott was hurt too that series.
Yes.
But you're right. Jordan broke my heart then. And I was at game 5 against the Knicks when Charles Smith missed those shots.
Oh, Lord.
It was like a funeral on the Long Island Railroad on the way home. It was like a funeral.
Like that.
Because you knew they were going to get waxed in Chicago.
Okay, if in regards to Knicks, what hurts more? Is it the Charles Smith layups, or is it the actual John Starks 1994 Game 7?
I tell you what really hurts was that fight they got into against the Heat. That really hurt.
Yeah.
That really hurt because they were good that year.
That was I think it was at 90.
That was 97.
97.
It was 97. And they were up 3-1.
Yes.
And here's the thing about that season that everybody forgets. They went into the United Center and they won the last week of the year. They never won there. Yeah. Never. And LJ still wasn't like he kind of his back got a little worse.
Yes.
As his career went on. Now I love LJ. Okay. Allen Houston had wrist problem that year, but he was getting better as the year went on. And by the playoff time, he was very good.
Yeah.
And Ewing was still healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then that's probably one of the last years that he was healthy.
Yeah, that was it. Because then he got hurt the next year when he broke his wrist.
Right.
And then he was never the same in his legs. So I think that team, because you still had Oakley, still had Starks. Like I think that team, they could have given the Bulls a run in 97. I really do believe that. They blew that 3-1 lead. And then I still remember that Game 6 where the dumbest thing that the NBA decided, like to first of all, the guy's getting fined and then suspended because of that fight that happened like 3 years before where the land in the playoffs. Now, if you left the bench, you got suspended.
Yeah.
Ewing wasn't even involved.
Right.
Ewing was somewhere else, but he didn't stay on the bench. And Van Gundy had just taken out all his starters, just done it. And then stupid Charlie Ward, I mean, it was you got flipped, but still, like of all the things to happen, man, that just stunk. That hurt the most. That definitely hurt the most.
Nick Payne, man, that Nick Payne is tough.
Oh, that Nick Payne, man.
All right,
yeah.
So we got kind of 3 different answers from you, Mark. So we got Tom Brady, Wilt Chamberlain, and Michael Jordan.
He's going MJ.
What name am I throwing down?
It's Jordan. I'm just telling you,
Jordan.
Chamberlain. Like Chamberlain gave, as far as hearing about, you can't validate any of these things, but as far as hearing about, Jordan to me would be the answer. To me, Brady's the best player, but Jordan is the best athlete.
I can't wait till somebody gives us Gretzky. That'd be a good one too.
Yeah,
Gretzky
Michael Jordan is our first repeat answer.
Who gave Michael Jordan, Mike?
I believe it was
Carita, right?
Carita Parks.
Carita, okay.
Carita Parks gave us Michael Jordan. So we got 2 MJs. We now have a Floyd Mayweather. We have a Peyton Manning. We have a Randy Moss. We have a Diego Maradona. We have a Muhammad Ali, and we have an Edwin Moses from Russell Beck.
Oh yeah. There was a great trivia question one time. Who is older, Edwin Moses, Moses Malone, or the original Moses? Well, did anybody say Secretariat? Because if they do, then you're gonna have another one.
Well,
nobody said Secretariat.
Somebody's gonna put that in there, and they wouldn't be wrong, man, because that was a dominant athlete.
we never said human athletes.
Right.
It's an important distinction we should make in the future.
How many lengths was it?
Oh man,
that Secretariat won by?
Yeah, like 20-something likes. Yeah.
It blew everybody else away.
Insane.
You know what the funny thing is, though, is that you just have Black History Month. And one of the things I really love to do is look back at some of the athletes that really that didn't get the credit that they deserve. Like a guy like Kurt Flood. I always love Kurt Flood. Reason why everybody makes all that money. Althea Gibson, she was the first one to start in tennis and in golf. Nobody really remembers Althea Gibson, just a great athlete. But the other thing that people don't really understand is the history of the Kentucky Derby. That in the first Kentucky Derby, 15 of the 28 people racing were Black. And 13 of the first 28 winners were African American. Oliver Lewis was the first guy to win. And there were so many great jockeys that didn't get the credit. Nobody knows that history. And I was fascinating to me to learn that. It just shows what you can, when you open yourself up to learning, there's so many things that can benefit you that you can educate people on. And I love telling them that, because that's a really rare thing that you wouldn't expect about the Kentucky Derby, but it just goes to show you what type, like how things were at one point. And they could have stayed that way, but so many other things changed that got them out of racing, and it should have never happened.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's a perfect way to end this great interview. This was one of the best interviews we've ever had. So,
thank you,
Mark, it's been a pleasure, man. Just tell people where they can find you and what's going on. What do you have going on in the future?
Where they can find me. I tell you what, if thing that would really help is if people went onto my website and then signed on to a Patreon where they could support me. That would really help more than anything. I'm not very good at selling, so I'm not good at that. But if you go to my website, there's over I've written over 500 articles. I've done there's so much information from blogs to even Black History Month and some of the other athletes the Black Barons and Rube Foster, and I've done a lot of research on that stuff. Jackie Robinson, I go through his first year in the major leagues in depth. And to me, the biggest thing was Leo DeRocha getting suspended for that year, where it would have been totally different on Robinson. He would have taken a lot of heat off him if he was allowed to stay, if he didn't get suspended, or why he got suspended for such a joke reason. And so you can find that there. My book is on there. There's a bunch of historic podcasts. I just listened the other day on an interview I did with Tim Kirkson back in the 2015 season. It was one of my favorites. Also, this guy, Jim O'Connell, I interviewed. O'Connell was a Hall of Fame writer for the AP, and he was one of the guys that was allowed to go with the Dream Team. And he tells me he has some great stories about the practices, about Krzyzewski working with Jordan, about, all of that. So that's all on there. So there's a lot of content on my website, but I'm very bad at selling it and getting people to be to come on and to support me through Patreon. But that would really make a huge difference. I could really use that. But
awesome.
Yeah, I don't do much. Facebook, I don't do much, and I'm not on Twitter anymore. But they can go to my website, CK Magic Sports, and also as I post things on Facebook, that's where you'll be able to find any of my shows that I've done on Wednesday, because I do a show every Wednesday on local TV down here in Anniston that gets shown all throughout Alabama. And you can actually find it online on streaming, WOTM. So that's where they can find me. But as far as Twitter and all that, I took a break from that just because it was a little too divisive right now. They can always find stuff at my website, CK Magic Sports. I appreciate you guys having. This was a lot of fun for me to do. This is
a blast.
Most fun I had in a long time. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciated it. Thank you for first of all, thank you for having me on. Thank you for the respect you've given me, and it really means a lot from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. Anytime you want me back, I'd love to talk sports with you, because I don't get to do it much.
Oh, awesome, man.
We're dying to talk to you.
Our pleasure.
It's ckmagicsports.com is the website. Make sure you go check that out. All of his stuff is on there. His book, Patreon page. It's all right here. It doesn't, nothing crazy. PayPal, Patreon, finding places to purchase the book, which I just did during the interview because I'm dying to read it.
I'll be getting it too.
And it's just all of this content. If you want to learn something, and again, if you've had the privilege of knowing Mark and I haven't known you for that long of a time, Mark, but in the time that I've known Mark Kelly, I've learned a ton of different things. Seriously, one of the better guys in our business, and such an inspirational story. So I can't thank you enough for being part of this podcast, for being part of my life. You're just an awesome guy, man.
Thank you so much, man. God bless you guys. Thank you again.
Awesome.
Have a good night.
Yes,
like I
you
said,
do, Mark.
this is Barry Grant Jr., host of the All Even podcast. We have Matt the Great Cataruzolo on the corner. We have Mike Guido here, Guido's Gridiron Blitz, and that was Mark Kelly. So, until next time, stay safe.